Redodo's branding definitely stands out from the crowd. This is the only battery company that we've seen that doesn't just have a bunch of specs and garbage written all over it. The colors indicate that it is clearly a more inclusive brand, trying to appeal to a younger demographic. Either way though, Redodo has been on the rise. They're actually a pretty popular and affordable little battery brand. These 12-volt batteries have a ton of applications, and today we're going to be finding out if this younger, bolder, stronger battery might just be the battery for you. So welcome back to the lab, guys. You know here our opinions cannot be bought. Today we're looking at this 12-volt 100 amp hour mini battery from Redodo. We've had this colorful little guy hanging around for about a month now. We've put it through some testing and some usage. And today we want to talk about everything that kind of scares us with this thing. A lot of other people rave about this battery and we're not entirely sure why. So today we want to go over all of the things that kind of scare us about this battery, as well as everything that we found we like and don't like from all of our experience using it. As always, we'll leave some links in the description, as well as any coupon codes we can get for you guys to this battery and any other batteries that we would recommend. But before we get into our opinions, we're gonna go over a super quick 60-second spec teardown for everyone that is not familiar with this Redodo Mini to get you up to speed. This tiny thing weighs 19 pounds, so it passed the tiny baby lift test with flying colors. It's worth noting that this is the Mini, so it has a much smaller footprint and it is a lot lighter than the normal 12-volt 100 amp battery. It's a 12-volt 100 amp hour battery, which makes it a 1280 watt hour capacity, and it's rated to charge and discharge at a continuous rate of 100 amps. It does have a max discharge of 250 amps for 5 seconds, but we will get to that later. And you can actually expand these tiny little batteries up to 20.4 kilowatts, which is a pretty big system when you're talking about each battery only being 1200-ish watt hours. And of course, it's a lithium iron phosphate battery, so it's rated for 4,000 cycles at a 100% depth of discharge, or 15,000 life cycles at a 60% depth of discharge. It's got an IP65 rating. There's no obvious holes or vents or anything going on other than right here, there it is, on the handle. You can see a tiny little hole going into the battery. So it's not necessarily submersible. And this guy right here is available for $238, which is actually a really good price. That's about 18 cents a watt hour. Not bad. And we're gonna jump right into the things that we like about this Redodo Mini battery, starting with the footprint. Having a mini version is actually just really, really nice. This thing's extremely slender and it's not very wide. It's also just extremely light. If you compare this to other 12-volt 100 amp batteries, it just takes up less room. And that's really nice, especially if you're using this as like a trolling motor battery, or if you're just putting this in maybe a small camper or a kayak like Redodo advertises on their website. It's not gonna take up a ton of room. Mainly, it's a huge pro if you plan to expand on it because each one is so small, it'll take up less space by the time you get to that 20 kilowatt hours versus if you did it with something like a Rich Solar Alpha 1. Alpha 1, that's what I'm looking at on the shelf. We also like that this is as efficient as advertised. You guys will see the results in testing, but all batteries should be about 100% efficient. And we just like that at $237.99, this is a really good entry-level battery. When it comes to testing results though, this battery did have me a little concerned. There's not much going on here. This is just a BMS and some battery cells. There's nothing else really to this at all. There's no app, there's no button to turn it on and off, there's nothing. It's a very primitive battery. So there wasn't a whole lot to test. But the first thing that we did was start with efficiency. All batteries should be about 100% efficient. It's usually the inverters and the rest of the system that actually eats up some power. So this is a 100 amp hour battery and we ran a 97 amp load on it. So it should have lasted about 61.8 minutes. And that 97 amp load actually lasted 62 minutes. which makes this battery about 100% efficient, which is perfect. That's exactly what you hope to see from a battery. And it also advertises that you could do 250 amp load for 5 seconds. So something that I like to do is kind of hit that in between and see what the surge would be like. If this is a 100 amp hour battery, 250 amps really should be a mistake. But if you aren't aware of how much power you're kind of pulling off this thing and you start pulling 170 amps, I wanted to know how long that would last for. We threw a 170 amp load at this battery battery, and it lasted. It cruised for like 10 minutes. It was getting super hot to the touch. The heat gun, you could see right through the plastic. Everything in here was just boiling. It was getting super hot. I was worried it was never gonna turn off. And then it eventually overheated. Dude, no way it took that long. That was insane. This is so hot. The cables aren't bad. The inverter's not bad. The top of the battery's not bad. Right here is on absolute fire. And through the plastic, we're getting a max temperature right now of 127 degrees, 128 degrees Fahrenheit, which is crazy. 129, that's not good at all, dude. That's insane. I thought I killed it because normally a BMS will turn everything off 30 seconds to a minute, turns everything back on, and you're back in action. It was off for over 10 minutes. I thought we just blew it up. The Redodo just played itself. The inverter's been on the whole time. It's been just over 5 minutes since this thing shut itself off, and the BMS has yet to let it come back to life. So usually it takes about 10 to 30 seconds for a battery's BMS to flip back on. That's been 5 minutes, still hasn't come back to life. It just baked itself. Okay, we appear to be back in action. We got our green light. It's been exactly 10 minutes since this thing overheated, but it seems like the hottest spot we can see is about 113 degrees. It's actually dropping impressively considering it's inside of a case. The temperature that it got to and the length of time it needed to get itself back to the point where it will come back to life was just a lot. So I wish the BMS was a little more sensitive, that's all. I don't think that that's the best results that we've ever gotten running that test on a battery, which bleeds into our next concern, which was cold weather testing. Now, this battery advertises working conditions. It says it will not charge if it's colder than 0 degrees, and it says it will not discharge if it's colder than -20 degrees. You're not supposed to use lithium when it's really, really cold, and we live in a place that gets really, really cold. So we threw a realistic cold weather temperature test at it, and we put this thing in the deep freezer for over 24 hours. That deep freezer normally gets our batteries to about -25 degrees. The super realistic way to test if getting the battery cold will actually keep it from coming on. So it was below -20 degrees in that freezer, and I hooked up the charger to the battery. This was the first battery that we ever did this with that accepted a charge and just kept going. I actually plugged it in, put the charger on top of the freezer, and left it for over 10 minutes, and it charged the whole time, which is not good for the cells at all. This is the first battery that we've ever done this test with that it has not protected itself from the cold. And interestingly enough, when we tried to discharge it when it was freezing, it wouldn't work. So it was smart enough to know not to discharge when it was cold, but not smart enough to know not to charge when it was cold. I guess like Redodo says, there is no cold weather protection, but it says the charging should get cut off before the discharging, and in our test, it was the other way around. So overall, weird and not good if you live somewhere that gets cold. And the thing that really confuses me is in this frequently asked questions part of the website, it says there is no cold weather protection, and that makes this a very popular choice for people that live in cold climates because it'll work in the cold. And then they say when they want to charge it to bring it inside, but it charges in the cold. It just doesn't discharge in the cold. There's clearly just not a whole lot of trial and error going on with the products that they're selling. Otherwise, like I said, it's a primitive battery. There is not much else to test. When it comes to things that we don't like, I'm gonna go starting with kind of finishing off on the testing section, which is you're basically just paying for cells. The BMS doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, it's there and it does work, but it's kind of like, you know, trying to wake up your hungover friend. It just takes a long time, and by the time it kicks in, it's not functioning the way you want it to. So sure, it's cheap, but for that same price, you can get other batteries that have a way more advanced BMS system, a battery monitoring system that will actually protect even just a small investment like this in the future. And the next thing that we just don't like, which kind of seems like a hoity-toity thing to say, but there is no app for this battery. And I get that you don't need an app for battery, and historically, so long as there has been batteries, there hasn't really been apps until recent years, but apps make it so much easier to see what's going on, to see exactly what your battery thinks it's expelling or accepting accepting as far as power, because even if I run a test that says it's got 97 amps going, the battery might think it's running 98 amps or 99 amps. So it's always good to know what the battery thinks it's doing, not just what you think the battery is doing. And the final point that we don't like about this Redodo is kind of more to do with actually Redodo, and it's a similar problem that a lot of these companies are having these days, where I just don't feel comfortable. If I were you, a regular consumer, and I stumbled upon the website, I wouldn't want to buy from there. There is spelling errors and things that don't make sense, and it's just not comforting. And I think that's just kind of like the moral. So like Redodo, you know, like put a little bit more oomph in that website for me. It's just not there. It just feels slapped together. I don't know, that's my opinion. And the result is a battery that is obviously white labeled. Like that's just a logo sticker on the top. I could put my logo sticker on the top. Some of the other nicer batteries in the industry, you know, like the stuff's put right into the plastic. It's all built for that brand. These ones are clearly just a Chins battery. If you do any research at all, you'll find out it's just a Chins battery with Redodo stickers all over it. So a simple battery like this, you can't really go wrong, but you could go better. So at the exact same price, literally $1 more, you can get an EG4 12V 100ah battery from a reliable company, from Signature Solar. You know, there's support there. It has a Bluetooth app. It has temperature protection for both cold and hot temperatures. It's IP68 rated, so it's actually waterproof, whereas this is not. So just honestly, like if you're looking at this, I would go get one of those instead. It's literally $1 more and you get way more bang for your buck. If you love Redodo though, and you want to scoop one of these colorful boys, I wouldn't say don't. Personally, I would be hesitant to spend my hard-earned money on one of these suckers. So if there is some Redodo batteries that you think may be a little bit better, a little bit more impressive, leave them in the comments below. We would love to check out some more of the Redodo lineup, because maybe we just started on the bottom end of the spectrum. Anyways, that is all we got for you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out and stay charged.